Hey guys, Michelle here. So, I have been underneath the crawl space of my cousin's house for 4 hours today. And his house is kind of sinking, and so we were using bottle jacks and jacking it up. And it's a filthy job. So I came home and took a shower right away. And as I was in the shower tonight, I was thinking about my experience here in the crawl space of my cousin's house, and what we were doing and the job that we were doing. And before I even went to do this job, Leah, it's the second time we've done this. We already put jacks on it about 2 years ago when they bought the house. We put jacks underneath of it, and they sunk. They've sunk over time. And so we're underneath the house, and we need to reinforce and fix kind of, the fix that we already did, and we weren't sure what we were going to expect. But as I'm under there, when you're using these hydraulic jacks, I don't know, raise your hand if you've ever used a hydraulic jack before on something like this. Normally, I would use a house jack, but all of the house jacks are too big for fitting underneath the house in this crawl space specifically. So we're using these hydraulic 20-ton jacks to stay under there permanently from Harbor Freight. So we had one that lost some hydraulic fluid, so we were going to replace that. It's 2 years old. I mean, that's not like, but we were trying to figure out, okay, why did it fail? Why did it start to sink again? Where was the, where's the fail point? Is it the actual hydraulic jack, which is possible, they can leak fluid, or is it actually sinking in the ground? And we discovered that it's just sinking in the ground. So as we're doing these repairs, and my cousin has this idea for using some footers. I don't know if you guys ever seen those footers. I call them like little elephant feet. They look like an elephant's foot. They're, like about this big, kind of like shaped like this, and they have a crisscross for any kind of 2x, and then they have a 4x4 square in the middle to sink a 4x4 into. So I just so happen to have 2 of those at my house, and we were at Harbor Freight getting another hydraulic jack, and so I told my cousin Jason, I said, I've got 2 more. I got 2 of those at my house. If you got some 4x4s, which I wasn't sure if we had any scraps here that we could use, and so he called his brother-in-law. So we've got our elephant feet footers, and we've got these 4x4s. And so what we have to do is we have to jack the house up higher than we want it to be in order to put these elephant feet underneath, okay? And to jack the house up higher than we need it to be, you're underneath there, and every pump, if you've ever used a hydraulic jack, you know what I'm talking about. Every pump and every creak has your heart pounding, because the crawl space, like if I'm on my side, which I was on my stomach, on my elbows. You can see my elbows are raw from being on there for 4 hours, but so I'm on my stomach. But if I was on my side, my shoulder would be touching the floor joist above me. So the space is that small. And, Leah was worried that, the house was going to collapse and fall on us. And I'm like, Leah, that's not possible. It's not going to do that. But, you're like, wait, Michelle, I read the title, and the title of this little short, quick live is, some people have never had a chop saw hit a knot in wood, and it shows. So, Michelle, you're talking about jacking up a house. How are you making the comparison to that? So, I'm going to follow me here. So, we're jacking up the house and getting it high enough so that when we put this elephant footer and the 4x4 on there, it'll come back down on it and rest on it. And so, every time you pump it, it's super under pressure. It's so tight under pressure. And every time Leah's not allowed to watch this video. I'm going to tell her she's not allowed to watch it, because she gets super worried about this kind of stuff. She was terrified also that the house was going to collapse. And I'm like, okay, first of all, that is not possible. Although I'm not going to lie, when at all possible, I was situating myself in between the floor joists. Okay, I'm not going to lie. That's just wisdom, right? So anyway, so we're jacking this thing up, and it's like every pop, every crack, every, thing has your heart pounding, and just, Leah, she yelled up, she said she's watching right now. She's not supposed to be watching. I didn't even tell her I was doing this. She says, I'm listening. I didn't even tell her I was doing this. So every pop and every crack has your heart go like that, and it doesn't start popping and cracking until it's like super under load, okay? And you're just sitting there, and you're just like, it's going to be fine. It's totally fine. But this is what I was more worried about than anything. And so for those of you who have had a chop saw hit a knot in the wood, you will get this, okay? So you're under the house, and you're jacking it up, and with the pop and with the cracking, this is what you're afraid of. You're not afraid of the whole house collapsing, because that is physically not possible for that to happen. You are afraid that that wood is going to bust and explode under the weight of the pressure. And so we finished. We got the house jacked up, and we did get it kind of, to a working position that my cousin Jason's wife Trish can live with. That was the whole goal. She's not in town, and he's like, I want her to come back and I want her to be happy. So okay, we got it to that stage, and we get out, and Leah goes like, I'm paraphrasing here. She's like, I just don't know how you even know how to do this stuff. And literally in unison, we're all like, so Jason, his brother-in-law Ryan, Matt, and myself, we're all like, we don't. We're just making it up. And we're jerry-rigging everything as we go. But I'm in the shower tonight, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so you guys may not know this, but this Cape Cod that we live in, this upstairs here, Leah and I remodeled and refinished ourselves. We know how to do just about everything: framing, plumbing, windows, soldering, like electrical, you name it, we've done it here at this house. Tile, and you learn along the way. And so the reason why I titled this what I titled it is because this is a spiritual lesson. You all knew that I was going to turn it around to be spiritual here. Sometimes you have to have wood explode in your face and fly and cut you and, all the things in order to learn how to be cautious next time. So I'm watching. We even actually went and got the scissor jack from my cousin Jason's car or truck because we needed one more jack. Because what we were doing is not only were we using the hydraulic bottle jacks that we had bought, the 20-ton ones, but we were trying to put those footers in, which means you need a jack to jack it up so that you can put the footer under and then pull the jack away. So we ran out of jacks to be able to do this. So my cousin Jason went and got his scissor jack. Love those things. Again, that's the one that every one of you who's watching should have used at some point in your life. If you haven't, you need to take a couple of man lessons. But the scissor jack is the one. It's very flat. This is a dog bone, but it's flat like this. And then as you turn it, it has a bolt like this that starts squeezing two pieces that are like this. It starts squeezing them together and together and together until you've raised up in there. So that's, get it, the scissor jack. So that's a scissor jack. So we're using the scissor jack, but it's narrow, right? So we have to, with these bottle jacks, I know this is very technical. It's going to get spiritual here in a second, but with the bottle jacks, again, we're going to use this dog too as an example. It has the hydraulic part like this, and then it has a screw portion. You're supposed to screw out the screw portion first so that you don't max out. If you might potentially max it out, you don't max out your hydraulic and not have enough lift. And so we had forgotten on one of them to screw that out from the previous time that we did this project. So we had to take it out so that we could extend the screw portion and then put it back. So that means we had to have the whole house resting on a scissor jack for a second. And I'm under there, and it just depended on what portion we were working on, whether I was doing it or Matt was doing it, because there's no real like changing spaces because it's so tight under there. So I'm there, and I'm the one working this scissor jack. And I've got it on a 2x4, on a paver, in dirt that is probably not the, most packed down. And then I realized that once I have it all maxed out and I've got the weight of the house on this scissor jack, and again, those of you that have hit a knot in the wood with your chop saw before, you're the type of person that this will make sense to. Again, let's use our dog bone for an example. The scissor jack should be like this. I realized it was kind of like the Leaning Tower pizza. Let me tell you why that is not okay. For those of you that have never hit a knot in the wood with a chop saw. That is not okay because under pressure, if it is not perpendicular like this. I didn't have safety glasses under there. There were several times I thought to myself, I wish I had safety glasses under here. Because at one point we were dealing with, and I know this is getting very technical, but I am going to get to the spiritual side of this. Underneath of the bottle jack, this is so stupid because it's not a house jack. All right, this is great. So a house jack, this is a coaster. A house jack is going to have a welded thing like this, so that as you put it up against what it's going on, that weight is distributed evenly. Okay, these retarded bottle jacks don't have that. They just have this tiny little round, and even a jack for the car will have an alcove in it, like this, but on a smaller scale. Okay, so it really, not these stupid little bottle jacks. It's so dumb. So I had the brilliant idea of getting some metal plates that we could just at least set on this to help, because it was making a brand in the wood. It was pushing in it so hard because the top of it was indented. I know this is a lot of technicality, but please follow me. Stick with me. It's going to get good. So we're raising it up, and we have these plates underneath of it. But the problem is that the crawl space is not level; it's lumpy. So we're trying to make it as flat as possible, and we've got like these different stones that we've got it on, like flat paper stones. And the problem with metal and stone is that they are very rigid. So I've got the bottle jack, which has a flat bottom like this on the bottom of it. Then it's got its little hydraulics, and it goes up into the wood. And then I have the brilliant idea to put some metal plates on the top. But if it doesn't sit flat at the bottom and it's kind of cockeyed, if you're putting it into wood, it'll kind of work itself out. But if you've got these metal plates here and it's kind of like this, I'm telling you, there are these sharp pieces of metal, and there were times where I was like, stop, we have to let it back down, because I'm envisioning these metal pieces, the sharp edges just exploding in my face. I can't believe Leah was listening to this. I was telling her how safe the whole thing was. So I'm thinking all these things through. But here is the thing that let's go ahead and shift this to spiritual as I bring the physical back into this. Spiritually speaking, when we go through times, like, raise your hand if you have actually had, and I don't see any comments. If there's comments, Leah, I'm not seeing them. There's one, I think, from Moon. Hi, Moon, says hi. If you're using a chop saw, okay, and that saw hits, and not just a chop saw, that was the best example that I chose. This will happen to you on a table saw. It can happen to you with a circular saw. It can happen to you with any kind of saw. If you go to hit a not so much a chainsaw. A chainsaw will just bog down. But any kind of, circular type blade there, if it hits a knot in that wood, that piece of wood will go flying, and your heart will leap to hell and up to heaven and back again, and you will literally, and sometimes it hurts you. Sometimes it will fly at your face. It'll fly at your arm. It'll almost cut off your finger. Let me tell you something. I wish Leah wasn't watching this. People that go to the ER because they have cut their finger using these tools, they're not that they were being careless with where their fingers were. It's because the wood jumped and their finger went with it. Okay? That's very graphic. I'm so sorry. And so most of us that have not actually lost a finger doing this, but have had the chop saw hit a thing of wood, and it goes flying, and and it hits you, and you're cursing probably, and all of that. Like, those of us that have had that experience, you learn. You learn from that experience, and you learn to use a push stick. Again, I don't know why I have this dog bone, but it's my push stick. You learn to use a push stick instead of your fingers, but that can also be dangerous too, because then you don't have as good of a hold on it as you should. So spiritually speaking, there are so many times where we are operating with tools that God has given us, and they're great tools, and they are perfect for the job, but they're dangerous. And they're dangerous if not used properly, and they are dangerous if not cut in the right place. You can cut with a chop saw, with a circular saw, with a table saw, through a knot. You need to have it positioned correctly. You need to go slow enough. You need to go slow enough. You need to go slow enough. And you need to have your wood positioned in the right place. So a lot of times we find ourselves in a situation where we're like, okay, God, you've told me to do this. You've told me to use this tool. I'm thinking spiritually speaking, and we use the tool and we do the thing, and we get hurt, we get injured, and it doesn't turn out right. And we are like, I'm never doing that again, because that didn't work the way that it was supposed to work. And we, just kind of get mad at God when we weren't being careful enough. We weren't using the precaution. We weren't taking our time, right? And so that's what I was thinking about in the shower, again, back to Leah's, like, how do you know how to do all this stuff? Well, spiritually speaking, because I get asked that question actually a lot from non-Christians who think that they're Christians. You know the type. Like, people that are like, no, I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. But they're really not a Christian. They do not have a relationship with Jesus. They have not surrendered their life to God. And those type of people ask Leah and I how we know everything that we know. Like, how do you know so much about the Bible? How do you have so much experience? How do you have so much wisdom, so much knowledge? How are you guys? A lot of people put Leah and I on a pedestal, which nobody belongs on a pedestal, by the way. Let's get that straight. But people do put people on a pedestal. And maybe you put Charlie Kirk on a pedestal. I don't know. But I'm here to speak to you from my own personal experience with God's chop saws. I know how to do what I know how to do because I've made so many mistakes. And I've messed up, and I've seen. And so what that does, what your mistakes do, is they teach you how to do it better next time. They teach you how to be more cautious. They teach you that when you are doing a project that you've never really done before. Granted, I had done this project the year before, 2 years before, under the house. But it's my life experience of working with wood, working with tools, working under load, under pressure, with things like that, watching things do things that they shouldn't do, And then learning from that makes it so that I can do a thing that I've never done before and still have the wisdom to do it. And so spiritually speaking, a lot of times the tests that you're going through, you've never been through those tests before, because then it wouldn't be a test. You would just know how to do it. You're doing another test. God's taking you through some other whatever. But it is your wisdom of the times where the spiritual chop saw has hit the spiritual knot in the spiritual wood, and it has blown up in your face and gone flying and scared you half to death, and maybe even did put you in the hospital, that has given you the wherewithal and the wisdom to go through that season. So, when these bad things happen, we often want to curse it, and we want to get mad at God, and we want to be upset, and we want to be like, I can't believe that this happened. Not recognizing that that thing is going to prepare you for something that you never imagined in the future. And you have to thank God. The Bible does tell us to rejoice when we fall into various kinds of temptations. Those are tests. That's not always like, oh, I want to eat that chocolate cake temptation, or I want to, sleep with that girl temptation. Like, that's not what that means. These are tests and trials and difficult things that come your way. We are supposed to rejoice when these things happen, because they're going to teach us, and they are going to prepare us for something better, or something harder, something more difficult, so that we will be able to go through that thing later and not lose a finger, a spiritual finger or a physical finger or whatever, in the future. So I just wanted to encourage those of you that, like, when you go through these hard times, recognize that is something that is preparing you for something in the future. And then also to take a moment to look back when you're in the midst of something that maybe it's not too, like, I'm under this house, right? And I'm seeing a lot of different variables, and we're doing things that they need to get done. And I'm assessing, and I've got all of these mathematics and variations going through my head, and I'm thinking it all through. And when I'm in the midst of a situation like that, whether it's physical or whether it's spiritual, to take time and thank God for the experiences that you have had in the past that have prepared you and readied you for what you're going through right then. Because I think that that's one of the things that as Christians is not taught in the church at all, is to have a heart. So the Bible says to enter his gates with thanksgiving and to enter his courts with praise. Well, the spiritual side of that is when you are entering into the gate and into the court of the king, you are about to make a request. And so you need to go in with an offering. You need to go in with a gift. And what is that thing going to be? It's going to be your thanksgiving. It's going to be your praise. It's going to be your gratefulness. It's going to be, God, you are so good. You are so wonderful. I thank you that you are going to see me through this situation. I thank you for all the situations that you have seen me through in the past. I thank you for all the lessons that I have learned and that you have equipped me to be able to handle this situation. I thank you that your Holy Spirit is going to be here. It's going to be before me and beside me and above me and around me and guiding me. The Holy Spirit is going to be my eye protecting goggles and my ear protection and even a shield. At one point, Matt was like, because I was talking about, having these protections. He's like, I just feel like I wish we were in a metal suit. I was like, I know, me too. Now, of course, I'm down there and I'm telling Leah, everything's fine, no big deal, because the house is not going to collapse on us. That I was fairly certain of. But what I was not fairly certain of is that when I am putting these floor joists under pressure, that something is not going to explode. And to add to it, and I'll end with this in a second. To add to it, the one floor joist that we were trying to really reinforce, we noticed was, see how this rawhide is rolled up and it's got like holes in it? Okay. It had been eaten on the inside from some sort of termite or ant or whatever, which left, like holes like osteoporosis in this joist. And we had to jack up that one temporarily. And I'm not going to lie, that was the one where I was like, please, Jesus. And that was one I was working on. Matt was not working on that. I'm like, please, Jesus, do not allow this thing to explode in my face. I do not want to lose an eye. I don't want to lose an eye. I don't want to lose an eye. That was, kind of what I'm thinking, because I didn't have any eye protection down there, which I probably could have asked for, but you're in the moment and you just want to get it done. And so sometimes you're working on a project and you think that the thing that you think that you have solid, a floor joist, like this should be solid. Like you can put any kind of pressure you want on this puppy, and then you get in it and it's not. It's been eaten by some sort of spiritual termite, and you're like, okay, I couldn't rely on that. And maybe usually that's a person, right? I can't rely on that now. Like that Swiss cheese, that's been eaten out. So this was my experience, my physical experience for today. That gave me an incredible lesson for myself, and then to share with you guys that, man, I have had so many things that were so close, and I thank God for angels, but those things that were so close have made me so prepared. Like, for an example, for those of you that haven't seen our setup, when I do like the mustard seed market, I take the Resistance Chicks general store on the road. I decided that I was going to be really cute and take these logs and cut them at various heights, turn them over and set our products up on top of the log. And it looks really cute. But I needed to cut these logs back in June. So I got several of them, and I was going to do it in the chop saw so that it would have a smooth cut, not the chainsaw. And so I put them up on the chop saw, and this is not a bad story. This is a good story. I cut them very well, but I only did so because I have tried to cut wood in a chop saw before, and these were pretty big, like logs, right? And it did not go well, and they get stuck, and it gets bogged down, and a piece of wood goes flying. And I've used a circular saw where I'm using my push stick, the table saw. I'm using my push stick, and I think I'm doing everything right, and still the thing goes flying. Wood is a tricky thing, man. And everybody that is relating to me right now knows this. Everyone that's not, just try to use your imagination. You have to be very careful when you're cutting with wood, and it's not because the saw blade is dangerous and you might accidentally put your hand in the wrong spot. No sane woodworker is going to accidentally move their hand and brush against the blade. Okay, well, I don't know. Most of us would not. We're cognizant enough to not do that. The danger comes from when the wood does something that you didn't expect it to do. And I guess that's probably the best way to say it. When spiritually, the thing that you're working with does something that you did not expect it to do, having the experience in the past of those types of things makes you ready for when it's something that's super dangerous, and that could have harmed your family. It could have harmed a loved one. It could have harmed your finances or a friend or whatever, a really good relationship. You name it. Like having that wisdom and that discernment. See, I think that, a lot of times we want to count everything as spiritual discernment as spiritual. I think that over spiritualizes things sometimes. A lot of times spiritual discernment is called spiritual experience. That'll preach. Do I need to repeat that for those in the back? A lot of times spiritual discernment is actually just spiritual wisdom and experience. It's not, oh, the Holy Spirit told me something, yada, yada, yada. Which that's great. But sometimes it's not. I'm going to read this comment from Samuel. It says, yep, a bucking saw is an attention getter. Happy to say 31 years and still have 10 fingers. Respecting saw blades and Holy Spirit is wise. Respecting saw blades. Respect the tools that God has given you. Respect the people that God has given you to minister to. And what I mean by respecting them is, this is really good. Please receive this, because I think I hit on the biggest part of this message, especially for those of us that are trying to minister to people. A lot of times that piece of wood or that saw blade, the dangerous part of this, is a person we're trying to minister to, and they will do something, or a family member or whatever, they'll do something that is unexpected, and it could cost you dearly, because you weren't ready and prepared to put up your defenses and to do it the proper way, and then something happens and it bucks. And I have 100%. I can say SK is one of those things. But in that specific instance, there wasn't really much that I could do, because there was a lot of premeditation involved in that. If somebody's going to lay a trap for you, that's a little bit different. I'm more or less talking about, if somebody's laying a calculated years-long planned trap for you, that's not the same thing as what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is more basic. It's going to apply to most of us. Not everybody's going to have somebody that sets a trap for you that they put years in the making. But you got somebody that God, it seems like God has brought to you. Maybe God brought them to you. What, Leah? I thought she yelled something. Maybe God brought them to you. Maybe he didn't. But your experience mixed with actual discernment should keep you safe. So use it. Use the wisdom. Use your experience. Be thankful for it. You've had people in your life that burned you. Don't make it so that you never get the chop saw out again because you're scared. Because in the physical, I'll be honest, the first time that ever happened to me, I was like, I'm never using this thing again. This is not for me. I don't even need this. Like, I don't need this kind of stress in my life. I want to keep, all of my appendages, and my indexes. But that's not, you can't, change people's lives by staying hidden and staying sheltered. You can change people's lives by using wisdom and thanking God for the experience that he's given you. So that's it. This is longer than I intended, but, don't take for granted the hardships and the things that may have happened, like a bucking saw. And like Samuel said, the reason I calls it a bucking saw is because that thing will buck. Like, it moves under the force of that. It's no joke. It is no joke, but everything is fine. We got the house jacked up, and no wood exploded in our phases. Nobody got hurt or injured. We're all good. Everybody's good. And we got a little lesson to boot out of it. So, okay, we'll be back tomorrow for our World News program, probably at 1:30. I I think that's all the announcements that I have, other than, please, I'm going to say this at the end of every show, please go and follow Coalition Reloaded. They just put out their flagship, I'm calling it that, they didn't call it this, maybe they did, I don't know, flagship album, How I Survived the End of the World. It's so good. You can find it at coalitionreloaded.com and on Spotify. I've got a lot of these songs on repeat. I love them. They will minister to you. And we will be doing shows next week. We have one that I think we already know what it's going to be about, and it's going to be really good, but I can't. What, Leah? I can't. She's not speaking loudly. She said something about going early, so maybe tomorrow is going to be early. I have no idea. We might be going back to our 8 o'clock times. I know we've been moving those to 8:30. We might be going back to our 8 o'clock times next week, so stay tuned for that. We will let you guys know probably. I'll try to let you know ahead of time if we do move them early back to the 8 o'clock time, or if we move Sunday's show to 1. Okay, I love you guys. God bless. God loves you, and thank God for the times that this all has bucked. Right, I know. Try to go earlier. Okay. Thank God for the time that this all has bucked, and you got lessons learned and experience and wisdom out of it. Okay, God bless.